pardoning that we are pardoned. It is in giving to all men that we receive. And in the Spirit that we're born to eternal life. Make me a channel of your peace. Make me a channel of your peace. Make me a channel of your peace. As we take 3 deep, conscious, healing breaths, let's allow our hearts to feel the gratitude. The gratitude of our music. Gratitude for those who have practiced and learned their instruments. The violin, the piano, the drums, the guitars, the flutes, and the instrument of the voice. We give thanks so that our hearts can open with the most incredible prayer. Holy Spirit, Source, make me an instrument of peace. Holy Spirit, one presence. Let me be an instrument of peace. Let me be a sower of love, of compassion, of understanding. Let it be so. As we take our deep healing breaths, we allow our bodies and our minds to relax. And for these moments, and may the moments be expanded, these moments where we cease struggle, we cease the thoughts of fear. We cease our thoughts of separation and we deepen, deepen, deepen into that place where there is silence, ancient wisdom, a sense of holiness about who we truly are. From the poet and teacher Rumi, love is the cure. For your pain will keep birthing more pain until your eyes constantly inhale and exhale love as effortlessly as your body breathes in and breathes out. Love is the cure, for your pain will keep giving birth to more pain until your eyes constantly exhale love as effortlessly as your body yields its scent. And from St. John of the Cross, your body is a divine stream, as is your spirit. And when your 2 great rivers merge, one voice is found, and the earth applauds in excitement. Your body is a divine stream, as is your spirit. When your two great rivers merge, one voice is found, and the earth applauds in excitement. As we take a few more deep breaths, we'll take a few moments of silence. We allow ourselves to feel the divine stream of life expressing as this body, this mind, this heart. We are sacred love. And as sacred love, we let our thoughts, our hearts hold the world in all of her struggles and all of her heartbreak. And as the Buddhist priest Thich Nhat Hanh says in this prayer, may the sound of this bell penetrate even into the darkest, most wounded places of our hearts and minds and our world. And so with the sound of the bell, we allow our hearts, our consciousness, to hold ourselves and all the world, even the places of the most wounded, the most heartbroken. Imagine that the sound of the bell and the love of our hearts penetrates even into the darkest, most wounded places of our world, our human family, all life. And so it is, and so we let it be. Turn to someone and say, you are sacred love.
You are sacred love. Sacred love. You are sacred love.
Now, here's a test for you. Now close your eyes. Close your eyes and think about something that's just really upsetting to you right now. Yeah. Anybody have a problem? I can give you a talk. Yeah. Just imagine now something that's just giving you a little bit of a hard time right now. It's making you go to your practice a little bit more. Go to your prayer pillow a little bit more. Now take a deep breath. And say this to yourself. I am sacred love.
I am sacred love.
2 more times. I am sacred love. I am sacred love. And now, as you open your eyes, I invite you to look out into the world, seeing everything else as sacred love, and knowing yourself as sacred love. With those 2 aspects in our consciousness, all is well. And tomorrow, when I get upset, I want to look into the mirror, into my own eyes, are sacred love. I am sacred love. And that is one of the ways we practice mindfulness. Yeah, we forget that sometimes. Yes, but you're the only one, Aslan. Never forget. It can be as simple as that. We breathe. We breathe in, we breathe out. We have this thought, oh, finally my practice is paying off. After 7,500 years, I finally have the mindfulness thing down, and no matter what's going on around me, the chaos, the calamities, I breathe and know it all is well. I am sacred love. We have our moments of forgetting, so we go back to the practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel, as I do, I wonder, that in the world we're living in right now, if we're not doing a sacred practice, we're just plain silly?
Yes.
Thank you. If we're not practicing, whether you call it prayer, silence, meditation, breathing, practicing going into that reservoir of source energy, of love, of compassion, of peace, of oneness, of remembering, if we're not doing that, then we're increasing our struggle, and nobody is responsible for that except us.
Mm-hmm.
As I hear the speaker told you last week. So, we're talking about mindfulness today. And John Kabat-Zinn, for those of you who know his books, his wonderful practice, he teaches mindfulness-based stress reduction at the University of Massachusetts Medical Center. And a fun piece of trivia, he's the son of Howard Zinn, who some of you know from his wonderful books. John Kabat-Zinn defines mindfulness as the gentle effort or practice to be continuously present with our lives, with this experience. And I love the word gentle. It's a gentle effort. How many of us have taken the holy, I don't know what they call it, when the what do you call
Flogging.
it? When you beat yourself up. We don't need the whip to do it though, right? So gentle effort, but a lot of us, I've heard you, I know who you are. I just can't meditate, I don't get it. And what's this stuff about stillness anyway? Who in the world can be still? So it's a gentle effort, a practice to be continuously present with experience. And it's paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and, wait for it, without judgment. Do we need to stop here and do some practice before we get in? He also says this, we observe our thoughts, feelings, emotions without judgment and with kindness. Actually, that's out of our self-observation book that we're doing in book study. We observe our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions without judgment and with kindness. And when we can do that, and that's the whole practice of mindfulness, when we can do that, there's something incredible that happens. We decrease damaging effect of our thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And we create instead a space of freedom where calmness and contentment can grow. So if I have a possibility of growing calmness and contentment and decreasing the damaging effect of my thoughts and emotions, if I'm not doing that, perhaps I'm silly for that too. It's easier to go out into the world complaining about how much struggle we're in. Oops. It's not always easy to observe our thoughts, feelings, and emotions without judgment and with kindness. Or, even trickier to observe someone else without judgment and with kindness. In other words, mindfulness is an emotionally non-reactive state. Which around our house the last few days, regarding the weather, just the weather alone. I'm not going to tell you who, but someone's been giving me constant weather reports. It's only going to be 19 degrees on Thursday night. Okay. This morning, it's 27 degrees outside. And so, I'm here to enlighten us. We have sunshine and we have warmth in the building, and we have clear roadways to drive on. Everybody all together say, it's really cold.
It's really cold.
And everybody say, we've got sunshine.
We've got sunshine.
We've got warmth. And we've got clear roadways. Okay, hallelujah. But don't we skip to the labeling really quickly? Don't we skip to labeling it? It's really cold. This is so bad. I can't believe it. Or when the sun was out a few weeks ago at 70 degrees, oh, this is so wonderful. So glad I live here. We label, don't we? It's hard not to. Because we're storytellers, we love story, we're constantly defining and interpreting and labeling. And that can be fun. We love to go to the movies, we love to read books, we love to read about the stuff that's dramatically bad so we can maybe have a whole new drama to think of. And we give Academy Awards for the best stories. Right? And we should get Academy Awards in our own lives. You have got that right. Amen. Academy Awards in our own lives where we make it worse than it needs to be. Oh, but then there's those moments where we go, oh, I finally found the person of my dreams, and that person's so wonderful, and I'm in love, and life is great, and this is what I've prayed for, and 3 months later, I'm hearing a whole new story, right? I'm hearing a whole new story. We are adorable beings. We are truly adorable. I especially love the stories that go like this. God finally gave me. Fill in the blank. And then 2 months later, I can't believe what God gave me. So we're constantly labeling. And you all know the story of the rancher and the horses, right? I've told it here several times. Do we need to tell it again?
No.
Oh, okay, so I'll review. I'll tell it quickly. But it's the whole idea of labeling, and we all do it. There's a rancher, and he's not a wealthy rancher. He has one horse. But this one horse runs away. And so his neighbor comes over and says to this rancher, this is so bad, your horse has run away. And the rancher says, well, I don't know if it's bad. I don't know if it's good. And the neighbor says, believe me, it's bad. And then, a few weeks later, the rancher looks out his window and he sees his horse running back toward the corral, and behind his horse is a whole herd of wild horses, and he runs out and he throws open the corral gate, and his horse runs in and the whole herd of wild horses, and he closes the gate, and his neighbor comes over. And he says, this is so good. You're the wealthiest rancher in the valley now. And the rancher says, well, I don't know if this is good. I don't know if this is bad. And the neighbor said, clearly you can see this is good. Well, a few weeks later, the rancher's son comes home. He's been away for a while, and he said, Father, do you realize right out there right now, it's the wild stallion that I've dreamed of riding my whole life. And so weeks go by while the son gets the horse ready. You can tell I'm not a horse person. He works with the horse. He gets a saddle on the horse. Lindsay, I should have had you tell this part. You get the horse ready to be saddled up, and he gets on the horse and he rides off. And a few hours later, the rancher looks out the window and he sees his son being carried back home by many of the community. The son is on a makeshift stretcher. They call for the medics. The doctors come. The doctor tells the rancher, the father, your son might not ever walk again. So the neighbor comes over and he says, this is so bad. I'm so sorry. This is so bad. Your son might not ever walk again. 2 weeks go by. Son is recuperating. And through that country, through that land, marches yet another army, gathering all the young men. This is an old story, so it's just young men. To go fight war number 700,244. That war. And the son can't go. His body is so badly broken. And so the neighbor comes over and he says, this is so good. Your son doesn't have to go fight in the war. You'll have your son with you most probably into your old age. My son, however, has to go off now and fight the war. And the father said, I don't know if this is good. And I don't know if this is bad. And the story goes on and on, but you get the point. And we talk about this a lot here. In one moment we think something that's really, really bad, and it turns out to be the thing that opens us at the deepest level of awakening and remembering. And in another case we think something so gloriously wonderful, and then it turns out to be the thing that breaks our heart at the deepest level. So, as my dad used to say, hold on and press on. Just hold on. There's going to be something else about this. You don't know everything about it yet. Hold on. And do what you're to do. Just keep putting one step, press on. Keep moving, press on. There's always going to be, as somebody at our Unity Conference kept saying a few years ago, there's always going to be more revealed. There's always more to the story than we know. So mindfulness is paying attention to what's in front of us and observing it without labeling it. And observing it without judging it, good or bad or right or wrong. And observing with kindness, whether it's our own silliness or someone else's, whether it's our own lapse of remembering our light or whether it's somebody else's. And when we're doing that, and who does it 24/7? Not me. I'm practicing. When we do that, in my humble perspective, we're doing the things that Jesus did in greater. Because we're observing and beholding with love, with kindness, and that alone creates miracles. And we may not know how all the details are going to come together, but that creates miracles. So I wonder if there's a formula. Oh, there is. The formula for mindfulness, is simply accept what arises. We could just talk all day about that one. Simply accept what arises. I quote my hippy-dippy weatherman who often says, it is what it is. It is what it is. Accept the isness of this moment. And then observe it mindfully. Now, if we're not observing it mindfully, we're doing stuff like, oh my God, did you hear CNN? Did you hear what they said about the so-and-so and the such and such? Can you believe it? No, in mindfulness, we observe it mindfully, we notice what arises. And we feel what arises. We're going to feel it. We're going to feel it. Dave and I watched a movie last night about a vet who's returned from Iraq and the PTSD and the nightmares, and where our hearts feel a little heavy right now, many things we're reading and learning about the returning vets. And we're practicing holding it without judgment, with kindness. We notice what arises. We feel what arises, and we breathe. Breathe. All the while, breathe. It is a wonderful training to notice when we stop breathing.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever stopped breathing at night during your sleep?
Mm-mm.
Sometimes I do that and I bolt up and sit up in bed. And David will go, "Oh my God, what's happening?" So apparently I stopped breathing. Breathe, all the while breathe. It's so helpful on this planet. And we allow the energy to pass through. Many of you have meditation practices that are similar. Vipassana, the mindfulness meditation. We breathe. So we notice the thoughts, we notice the feelings, the emotions, we feel them. And we breathe. And then we watch as the energy passes through and we observe it, meaning the emotional charge we have about a thought, about a circumstance. And we observe it diminishing. The emotional charge I might have about that one issue in our country, of the way the vets are being cared for when they return. I breathe. And I let the emotional charge pass away, pass through. The emotional charge ceases to exist when we practice enough. When we give ourselves over to that. Often we adorable human beings want to fight for the cause. And we'll do it in our meditation time. We'll write the letters or the emails or the editorials, and we will do all that in our meditation time. That's really not mindfulness meditation. So we feel it, we're aware of it, breathe, and let the emotional charge pass through. So what's left when the emotional charge has ceased to exist? Equanimity is one word that we use. Silence, centeredness. Somebody just said peace. That reservoir, that source energy is intact within us no matter where we are, no matter what's going on. That is intact within us at all times. And so we're learning to use our bodily instrument, our mind and our emotions to practice letting the charge move through so that what we're left with is a centered place where we can receive the divine ideas, understand what we're being guided to, know what is our next step, what is the next right and perfect step. And I'm sorry, but when we do this, the dramas begin to diminish.
Yes.
Do you know that when we human beings are bored, we will often create a drama? What if our human family was not so keen on getting caught up in drama and was more keen on doing something like this?
Yes.
Mindfulness. When we practice mindfulness, and Angie, Mother of Earth Day, she is in love with Afterlife with Billy Fingers. So on her Facebook, she puts these great quotes. So from that wonderful book, the miracle of creation is here in this place everywhere. The trees, the skies, the sun, the friendship, the kindness, the love. When we're practicing enough, releasing the drama and centering in that peace, we see more of what's around us, more of the miraculous that's around us. Now in this book, Billy Fingers is describing the afterlife. He's no longer in physical. He's giving his sister insights. Sister is still in physical. Billy Fingers is in non-physical. He's saying this place, everywhere there's trees and skies and sun and friendship and kindness and love. Do those ideas and qualities exist anywhere else? In my Father's house are many mansions. And here's something fun to think about. If it is true that we are multi-dimensional beings of light, and if it is true that we are living multi-dimensionally in many places at once, then it's true that we have eyes to see and ears to hear in every one of those kingdoms, every one of those dimensions. And our eyes get bigger. Our seeing gets bigger when we remember that we're multi-dimensional beings. We're not just trapped in this circumstance, in this little place called Myrtle Beach. We have access to the wisdom of the ages. We have access to the peace of the ages. We have access to the source life energy of the ages. We don't have to believe this little tiny drama that everything going on in this circumstance right here, political, economic, religious wars, we don't have to believe that that's the only reality. As a matter of fact, in my humble perspective, it's the tiniest reality. There's something so much bigger about who we are, and that's what we're talking about opening to when we talk about mindfulness. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I put on the brakes because it feels so big to feel that sometimes it feels a little bit safer to return to the drama. I know y'all don't do that, but hold me in prayer. So that I'll... In Genesis, we're going to start at the beginning and then we have, I'm just kidding. In Genesis, the story of Jacob, the mysteries of Genesis, that's what we're going to start on Thursday night. The story is Jacob has done an unkindness to his brother. He tricked his brother and he received his father's blessing to receive the birthright of the family. And Jacob's in a lot of trouble with his brother Esau. Esau's gunning for him. Well, that's not exactly what it says in the Bible, but he's after Jacob. And Jacob hightails it to another land. And he's on his way and he stops and he puts his head on a rock, lays down his head on a rock, and he starts dreaming through the night. He's in a really hard place. He's had to leave his land, his family, his brother wants to kill him. And he's in a hard place and he has a dream and he sees the angels ascending and descending to heaven, from heaven, on a ladder. Our dream life is so rich. He sees the angels going up and down. Fillmore said those are divine ideas, the angels. Fillmore didn't talk too much about a created being called an angel. Many of us here have had experiences with angels, and I'm sure if Charles Fillmore could rewrite his books, he would have something to say about angels. But when he wrote about it, he talked about angels being divine ideas. We receive divine ideas. And then we understand how to implement them into our lives. And this is what Fillmore says about this story, because a lot of us will go through hard places, will not know our way. We have to leave something that we've known, leave something that's familiar, leave something that we have a fair amount of safety maybe, at least we know what we're dealing with and we're called to leave it. Anybody ever do that? Yeah? And then we don't know exactly what we're going to find when we get to the next destination. Jacob didn't know what he was going to find when he got to his destination. And there's this middle part we have to go through of uncertainty. We might go through a time of losing our faith or losing our vision. We might go through a time of not knowing what to do, and it can be really, really uncomfortable. And that's a good time to practice mindfulness. This is what Charles Fillmore, our co-founder, had to say. He said, Jacob was escaping the wrath of his disappointed brother, and he took himself to a certain place where he tarried all night because the sun was set. The sun had gone down Fillmore says he took one of the stones that were in that place and he used it as a pillow and he laid down to sleep. And this incident illustrates the fact that when we're going through an emotional experience that is leading us upward, that's the first thing to remember. Sometimes we're going through stuff and it's hard to remember that it's leading us upward. Say, oh my God, we're going to stay here stuck forever. It's leading us somewhere. Fillmore says it leads us to higher spiritual consciousness, but we may not understand that at the time. We may not understand what's happening. We might not have any light on it. The sun has set, but like Jacob, we give ourselves over to tarry in the darkness, tarry in the place of not knowing. Just allow yourself to be in that place of breathing in, breathing out, feeling the emotions, feeling the thoughts, having the thoughts, and let yourself breathe through it. We tarry there in the meditation and we see the messengers of God, ideas of truth, ascending and descending, the angels going up and down the ladder. And he says these ideas of truth come to us as an act of remembering that we are reaching heaven even from our earth experiences. We reach heaven in the midst of our earth experiences. God is right here in our midst. How many of us have been in a hard time, in a hard place, and we think we are being forgotten by the Holy Presence? Anybody? Oh, okay, good. I mean, not, okay. Understanding, when turned toward the omnipresent light of Spirit, opens its eyes to the astonishing fact that the seemingly material bodies and temporal surroundings conceal the immanent presence. We talk ourselves into thinking that just because circumstances look hard, that the immanent presence is not there. That's a Hollywood story. It's not the true story. When things get hard and uncomfortable, we talk ourselves into thinking that God has left us, that source energy has left us. But that's not a true story. The true story is source energy is with us every moment. God just snuck into the sanctuary. So here's the thought from Eckhart Tolle. You are not in the universe, you are the universe. As an intrinsic part of it. Ultimately, you are not a person, but a focal point where the universe is becoming conscious of itself. What an amazing miracle. Let's take a deep breath on it. What if it's true? You get to decide, because no priest or rabbi or minister or therapist is the one to tell you the truth of your own magnificence. You feel it, you know it, you deepen into it. It's your work. It's your opening. It's your practice. What if it's true that we are a focal point where the universe is becoming conscious of itself? What if it's true that you're the focal point through which source energy expresses? What if that's true? And then you get to decide in your own heart if it is. Right now you may be in a situation where you're feeling you're putting your head down on that hard rock in the desert, not knowing where to go next. Right now you may be feeling that you would sure love to have a dream guiding you to the next right step. Maybe you're in a place where you're not quite sure if inspired ideas can come to you or not, but would you be willing to consider that inspired ideas, messengers of light, angels, holy presence, beautiful dreams, visions, awareness, insight. What if it's true that you have access to all of that? And if you don't yet feel it's true, are you willing to do an experiment and give yourself over to a practice? Any practice that takes you to the source energy is a practice that's worthwhile. This is just one. Are you willing to give yourself over to an experiment? I am. Give myself over to an experiment that if I do enough of this, that I can experience what Jesus talked about. And Jesus said, I and the Father are one. He was talking about being one with that source life energy, where wisdom and peace are constantly with us if we can give ourselves over to dipping into it. Tapping into it. Being at one with it. So it's up to you, it's up to me. And when we're observing ourselves, we're also observing community. We're watching lives change and faces light up and hearts open. We look with the eyes of kindness and without judgment. And we help lift each other up. It's the most loving, wonderful thing to experience that. So we take one more deep breath. Keep into our commitment to wake up, be present, pay attention, release outcome, observe, breathe, without judgment, with kindness, deepening into the silence, the peace, the equanimity, the oneness. That's who we are. We bring all of our multi-dimensional life energy and wisdom into that moment, into this moment. And we say, so it is.